Hey, it's TimesClock11 with another video on the blades of Xenoblade 2. This will be about things I would do to rebalance the availability and variety of blades in the game. So I'll be going over 3 points for this: consolidation, changes, and obtainability. For the first one, consolidation, with some exceptions, I'll be removing one blade from the game and taking traits about them, giving them to other blades to flesh them out more. So basically, there's just too many blades in the game, and too many that aren't worth using because there's so many better options in their weapon class, at least, if not outside of their weapon class, because shield hammers exist. The exception to this is I won't be removing any katanas, because katanas are all so useful, and one of the best ways to use them is to stack them together, so it would probably hurt balance more to remove one of them than it would for any of the other weapon types. So for the other weapon types, though, first removal will be Godfrey. Godfrey is so useless. Unlike other shield hammers, which are already bad, he doesn't even have field skills. There is literally no reason to ever equip him for anything. His battle skills are really terrible, while being contradictory, and just literally no field skills because they're all for a single quest. It's a pretty good quest, though, so the thing that I would consolidate is just give his quest to any other blade, or don't necessarily make it a blade quest, just make it a regular quest available to do at any time, once you reach Tantal at least. Just make that quest a regular quest. There's no reason for him to be involved in it. Alternatively, have Perun or Percival involved in it. Not necessarily make it their blade quest, but the way Korra's quest lets other blades show up, you could do that and have Percival and Perun show up in the former Godfrey quest. Also, keep it voice acted because it's still a pretty good quest. It just doesn't really need him to exist. For lances, I would remove Veil. So I kind of like Veil, but realistically, she just doesn't serve much purpose. Every lance is more useful or has more of a niche, even Perun. I mean, I guess Veil is technically better than Perun, but she's just not synergy. Doesn't have the same kind of synergy as the others, at least, because she has an ether mod, but the lance attacks are all physical, even if her specials are ether, but she's just kind of a weird lance. And because I'm also going to be removing another Dark Blade, the thing I would consolidate about her is give her Dark Element to Gorg instead, because I'm not going to be removing any Water Blades. All the Water Blades are either belong there or just useful enough that there's no reason to remove any of them. So I'd give her Dark Element to Gorg to balance out the elements from removing 2 Dark Blades. And her quest is also really good, so I'd keep that. Just keep the quest as a normal quest. Doesn't have to be about her. Next one, for Ether Cannons, I'd remove Azami. So Azami is especially hard to justify using, since you can get Shiba so easily, and probably earlier than you'll find Azami. Since I forget if she's in one of the pity groups. I think she might have been in the pity group that doesn't actually exist. And along with one of the future points for rebalancing that I'll go over towards the end, Cosmos would become more available, so that would make Azami even less useful, less reason to use her if Cosmos is more easily available. So yeah, I'd remove Azami, and again, her quest could just become a regular quest. For axes, this one's kind of hard because both Dagas and Agat they both have really nice designs and pretty good quests, but Agat is basically just a much, much weaker Dagas. So one option is give Agat's personality with the mineral interest to Dagas, since he also has mineralogy. and give her Fear of Bugs over to Korra, I guess. Or take Dagos' skill, the skill that makes him so useful, basically the only reason he exists. Give Kaiser's Own over to Agat instead, and instantly Agat becomes just as good as Dagos, if not better. But on the other hand, his quest is also pretty interesting, so I'm not sure who you give that to. So I think the more reasonable choice would be remove Agat and give stuff about her over to Dagos. And if you did that, you should also put her design aspects onto him with the gem stuff all over her is. She does have a really nice design, so I'd probably miss her if she was removed from the game. I wouldn't miss Dagos so much, but so that one's kind of hard to decide which one of them would be condensed into the other, because all axes are pretty good actually. Agat is just so much weaker than Dagos, so gameplay-wise, there's no reason to use her. But story-wise and character-wise, you could put either one into the other. For Knuckle Claws, Nim. Nim is annoying. She's boring. Her quest isn't even good. And she doesn't have anywhere near the kind of niche as other Knuckle Claws like Adenine, who provides nice support. So I'd remove her and give her Phonex thing to Dromark. Doesn't have to be a skill. There's no reason that it has to take up a skill slot. Why do so many things have to take up field skill slots? Just make it an innate thing that you can talk to Phonex because Dromark is there. Doesn't have to be a skill, and there's no reason to remove the exposition that they provide because a lot of Phonex provide really nice exposition on areas. So just make them regular NPCs you can talk to. And her quest doesn't even need to exist. But I guess you could still keep her quest if you wanted and just have it be a regular quest. There's really not much reason for it to exist though. And lastly, for bitballs, this one's a sort of exception because I'm not going to be outright removing Dahlia despite hating her. But this will move over into the changes point. So, there is a terrible lack of twin ring beast blades. As in, Dromark is the only one besides commons. So, to diversify things better, I'd take Dahlia and Finch, because they're both animal-based already, and make them into beast ring blades. Dahlia would need a redesign, and I mean, anything that justifies a redesign of Dahlia is a good idea, right? So, make Dahlia into a ring blade that's much more animal-like, a cutesy animal like Finch, and Finch doesn't even need a redesign, just give her rings. No reason for a hammer. She would make more sense as a ring blade anyway. And then she would be a lot more useful, because hammers are terrible, and there is no reason to use hammers in the first place, for anything, except for field skills, I guess. So yeah, make Finch and Dahlia into ring blades. So the changes point is pretty quick and simple. Just make those two into ring blades. Now for the last point, availability. So since we're removing a bunch of blades, that would have the side effect of making it slightly harder to obtain more blades. So the fix for that is just buff rates. Make the drop rates for a bunch of blades easier to obtain. Or at the very least, what I'd prefer to do that with, because the way the gacha system already works is really great for the main story, but not so much for post-game. So make it so that once you reach chapter 8, or chapter 9 at least, if not after being the final boss, you get doubled rates on every rare blade. Very simple thing to implement and wouldn't affect the balance of the main game at all, but it would make it much easier to get everything in the post game. And aside from that, there's also two other things I would change. Zenobia. make her obtainable as a core crystal the way you get Cassandra. Cassandra is, I believe, the only, or in Sheba. Cassandra and Sheba are core crystals that you can find without quests. You just find them in the world. So I think it would be a great subtle storytelling if you had Zenobia obtained as a core crystal in the Jagron's Citadel in Temperantia, or anywhere in Temperantia, really. So this would make it the same way Cassandra's obtain ability is subtle storytelling. Have Zenobia found in Temperantia where there's all these really strong monsters. It would imply that her previous driver died trying to fight monsters that she wanted to fight because the driver wasn't strong enough, I guess. At least as far as she would see it, the driver wasn't strong enough. So they died there in Temperantia and left her core crystal. And one other that I would change to a similar thing like that, Cosmos. Have Cosmos's core obtained in, to avoid spoilers, I'll just say Chapter 9, the area of Chapter 9, have it obtained there. It makes her overpoweredness balanced because you can only get her really late into the game. Make it so it's very easy to have her for the post game. You don't have to spend 500 hours like I did trying to obtain her. So since her and Zenobia are two of the best blades for post game, it would make the most sense to have them much more easily obtainable instead of by RNG. Just have them where you have to beat some kind of strong enemy first to get them, like with Cassandra. And then you'd have much, much better balance, in my opinion, for the whole game if you implemented all these changes with removing blades, changing some into twin rings, and making the two of the best post-game blades more available. They're not the absolute best because Cutie Pie and the DLC blades exist, but aside from them, they're some of the best blades in the game, so make them more easily available without any RNG, and then have those buffed rates after a certain point in the story so that it's easier to obtain all the blades. So that's everything that I can think of for how I would rebalance the availability and variety of blades in Xenoblade 2. After a recent replay, that's what made me think of all these ideas, because I ended up with way too many blades to use. In fact, I even got Cosmos in Chapter 7. So it just made me think about how so many of them are pointless. There's very little reason to use them. Also, one other thing I'd mention is for all the field skill slots that are wasted on stuff for a single quest, I'd make those into just any other useful field skill, or actually, better idea, give every single blade at least one field skill that goes up to level 5. So, like how we would be removing Nim. So her Earth Mastery, I guess, yeah. So Earth Mastery, take that and give it to, I don't know, Florin, I guess. Wolfric already has Earth Mastery level 5, so give Nim's Earth Mastery to Florin to bring it to level 5. So just one last thing I would mention that I just thought of while making this. So with everything removed, give one of their field skills over to any other blade who already has the field skill and raise it up to level 5. So that is everything now, and I also have some ideas for how I would rebalance specific blades to make the less useful ones more viable. I would be skipping the ones that I just wish would be removed, though. So I might do another video on that, and see you next time!